You may have heard that a VR mode, a virtual reality mode, was being worked on for KDE Plasma, or maybe you haven't, and that's why you're here. So I was waiting for some more stuff to happen in the thread before we talked about it, and there's been a bit of movement. So in case you're entirely out of the loop, a developer by the name of Stanislav Alexandrov opened this merge request, Draft VR mode. Now, with Valve's Steam Frame being on the horizon any day now, who knows when it's gonna happen? I actually don't know anything. No one from Valve has reached out to me yet. Valve, you have my email, or, reach out to me. Anything that could be remotely related to the Steam Frame, to the Steam Machine, is gonna get some attention. And because of that, this was added since the creation of the merge quest. I do not work for Valve. This is done in my free time. This is not Valve paid work, unlike, something like Fix, where now that people know that was actually paid for from the start, a lot of people assume that anything like this is, probably related to Valve in some way. And also, at least supposedly, dev kits are now being circulated around for the Steam Frame, so the Steam Frame is very close by, so having this right here, very important to make sure people don't get a misunderstanding of what's actually going on. In here, we have a video demo. It's a pretty standard VR compositor sort of thing. You place your windows where you want to place them. Now, this is intended for actually working. Okay, this is an anime there, but this is generally intended for working with stuff, so it is all keyboard driven if you want to interact with applications. You're not doing everything with your controllers, things like that. It's very much intended to be a virtual reality workspace as your, as a way to do things. Instead of doing things on a flat screen, it's supposed to give you more screen space than what you would have just working on a screen. That's kind of the whole point here. So of course, with the whole Steam Frame coming along, and with this being VR, Brad Lynch, otherwise known as Sadly as Bradley, Valve data scraper extraordinaire, VR fanatic extraordinaire, he obviously talked about it. And when he talked about it, this got quite a bit of attention, and not as much as something like the Steam Frame or the Steam Machine, but a lot of people, this is where they first heard about it. And someone replied, "Honestly, really cool, but what on earth was wrong with a white outline? Why does every single Linux UI project turn into green and blue colored fake bloom? It looks awful." And I think the work here is cool, but the green glow on the windows, no, it just, just use a white outline, use anything else. A white outline's gonna stand out a lot more on pretty much any background. If it's customizable, hey, that's cool, it's customizable, but the green outline, just stop, don't do that. Do anything else. Okay, maybe not anything else, don't use a red glow either, just use a white outline. Just do that. No need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is fine. It's okay. Personally, I've never really been one to really care about these sort of VR environments. I don't have a VR headset. I don't actively use one myself. But I do know that for some people, this is a really important niche. This is something where they love working in VR. They love having their headset on. Anything they can do in VR is going to be a better way to do things. Now, this plugin is this addition is going to obviously be a while to get things fully ironed out, but there are some things that do currently work and do sound pretty cool. Floating windows, obviously the windows are all floating around. Physical and virtual screens, everything is 3D, even XWayland surfaces, window decorations and shadows, made for work, full keyboard control. So if you want to, program with a headset on, you can do that as well. Head gaze, no mouse, touchpad, or VR controller is required. So again, this is intended for work. You look at the window you're working on. You don't have to move your mouse or move your controller over to the thing and then swap back to the keyboard. That's awkward. Native Qt rendering, direct DMA buff import, and a follow mode. Now, with this being regular Windows rendered in a way which is not how regular Windows would normally be rendered, it obviously does require some additional patches to get things working. So if you want to test this out right now, you will need to do a patched Qt and optionally patched XWayland. If you don't use any XWayland windows, any X11 windows, that part's optional, but the patch Qt is pretty much required. So those patches right now are available over in this repo here, but the intention is to get all of this work entirely upstreamed, because otherwise, there's no point adding the VR mode into KWin if you need to do some patches for Qt and XWayland, because then no one would be using that mode, because no one's going to go out of their way to go and do that. Most of the patches now have been upstreamed, but there are still some ones that are left over. Notably, these two changes over in Qt when their site wants to load. Okay. RHI add RGBA 16 texture format, and this one over here as well. This change is in Qt Quick 3D, this one's over in Qt Base. So yeah, RGBA 16 is supported in KWin for DMA buffs. With this change, we can use those imported textures in Qt. The other change is over in XWayland, and these ones might require some additional discussion to actually get merged. Because with the Qt changes, it's pretty much guaranteed this is going to happen. It's just a matter of when the patches are going to be merged. So whether they are going to be in the next release or sometime after that, because if it's not soon, it's going to be like a year from now, and that does sort of put a hold on the work being done over here. As for XWayland with the first patch, this reintroduces some older, already fixed regressions. For example, run xterm, open the menu by clicking Control left mouse button, and move the pointer across the different menu entries. The entries aren't selected with the pointer. This also reintroduced the issue 1811, XWayland cursor does not update at the end of a window resize, and 2008, revert XWayland update sprite prior to cleaning the focus window and fix it differently. Obviously, if this patch is reintroducing old bugs, it does need some work to, not reintroduce old bugs, otherwise you're kind of defeating the whole point of fixing the bugs. As for the second patch, XWayland remove limits for Wayland pointer, this one is having quite a bit more discussion about it. This change helps when an X11 window receives pointer events into the part of the window that is out of screen bounds. Windows located at -50, that being the root, receives absolute pointer event at 1010, surface local. It is then translated to -40 root coordinates, then clamped to the screen geometry and becomes 00. 00, the root, is translated to window local 5050. This patch effectively removes those limits, and the window will get the enter/motion events at 1010 local and -40 root as expected. I'm not sure that this will not break some edge cases, and that this is actually the best way to do this, but so far it is working under KWin, and probably other Wayland compositors do pointer movement limiting themselves. This is pretty much important for VR. Windows can have sizes larger than the screen, limiting them to the screen dimensions is awkward. Now the problem is this change is sort of wrapped up in a discussion from about 5 years ago, which is, kind of normal anything in the Wayland world. Even though this is Xorg, this is XWayland, it's still Wayland to some extent, so yeah, you're gonna have to deal with long-running issues. The discussion I reference isn't about clients, but about X server code. The way I see it, there are two fundamental approaches here. One, make X server work perfectly for negative coordinates by fixing all such issues. Two, never place outputs at negative coordinates in the coordinate space shared with XWayland in the Wayland compositor. The first one requires unknown effort, and you can never be sure that you've squashed all bugs and there aren't some lurking somewhere. The second one is straightforward, and you know the issue can't happen. Seems like a no-brainer to me. So what exactly is going to happen with these XWayland patches is kind of unclear, but again, this isn't required to make the functionality work, this is just required to make XWayland windows behave properly in the VR environment. If it's not fixed, again, it's not the end of the world. It's not preferred, but it'll still survive. Now, going back over to the main merge request draft VR mode. So this links out to some separate things as well. The main issue is basically a tracking issue for things that need to be added. So we have the Qt patches here, we have the XWayland patches as well, and there's not really much going on in this thread because this is basically the only person involved in working on this code. Now, again, as I said, the XWayland patch is not required. These ones are basically critical. Without those, then you do have some problems, and Qt's definitely not going to work in this environment, which is a big deal. And, you know, with KDE kind of being built with Qt, yeah, definitely does matter. And we also have a separate merge request for some related additional changes that need to be made to KWin. Now, in that main thread, I do want to highlight one comment from David Edmondson of the KDE project. So obviously, there's a lot of excitement about this. Oh, wow, amazing, incredible, awesome. But David initially had some, maybe not skepticism, but concerns about where this is being done. At the end of the day, you're doing separate input with separate rendering with separate window placement logic. You're not using much else KWin provides, and things like placement logic are only getting in the way. So the key question I have before anything else is, what is KWin providing that means there's a benefit to having it in the KWin process? We can forward window buffers pretty cheaply, and a path-through application level input forwarding is definitely something we want to pursue and can hook up. So the question is, why even have this be part of KWin? Why not do it separately from it and still do the same work? The end goal here is to make KWin run without flat displays so KDE can be a fully fledged VR desktop environment. The VR plugin relies very heavily on KWin's internal features. Input. The plugin provides an absolute pointer device, KWin VR input device. It just moves the pointer like a mouse or touchpad, so all input filters and event delivery system is working as usual. With some additions, pointer can be outside of outputs, and any window can be refocused. 2. Rendering. There is an option to use window thumbnail instead of the plugin's decorated surface window 3D. The primary reason why the separate rendering logic was created in the first place is performance. Qt has a render thread and a shared OpenGL context, so we can't just draw there using the current renderer. Then it is evolved. Subsurfaces, shadows, decorations as 3D objects. Here, I would like to avoid making the same stuff again, so I'm expecting to improve KWin's render, and it will be able to draw both for 2D and 3D in the future. 3. Window placement logic. Only KWin decides where to put windows. Placement logic is only slightly changed for pop-ups. It's up to the user to move windows outside of outputs, and even then the transient windows placement / movement is still handled by KWin. 4. Performance. When you render 10,000 by 8,000 90 FPS, any additional stuff like off-screen rendering or moving buffers screencast hits hard. For comfort work, you have to render at high resolution because of text clarity. And 5, not yet implement features like drag and drop or VR screencast will be very hard to implement separately. I want to have the same user experience as we have now for flat displays, but translated to VR, and I believe that in the end, KWin should become a VR compositor without any plugins. And from this point onwards, David was also involved in reviewing work being done, so I guess that was a good enough answer. So right now, we are at the iteration stage. Nothing has yet been merged. There's still those additional patches outside of this that need to be worked on, and it seems like things are going in a reasonable direction. There's work being done on the patch, all this good stuff, but nothing is really fully set yet. It's just general improvements being made, so I guess we'll wait and see what happens with it. Most likely it's gonna be merged. When that's gonna happen, again, kind of depends on the other dependencies, so I guess we will, we'll wait and see. Hopefully it goes well, and yeah, if you have a VR headset and you want to help out with the project, go try it out, go test it, and do all of that good stuff. I think this is cool. Is it something I'd use actively? Probably not. Even if I had a VR headset, I'm not a fan of wearing something on my head all day, but I know some people do like that, so here it is. Anyway, if you liked the video, go like the video. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is this something you would use? Have you tried it out already? I'd love to know. Go subscribe as well, and if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to Daily Therapy, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and this is cool.
something like this.